So here is how you can get stabs that sound like this. Okay, so that demonstration was on my TGR Tomo and it had cherry stabs. The switch was a mode obscure switch. So how do you get your cherry stabs to stop ticking or rattling? Now, cherry stabs are my favorite stab because they are very reliable, and all you gotta do is to mod them a specific way and you never encounter any issues ever again. So I'm using cherry clip-ins. These are genuine cherry stabs. And here's what it will look like stock. You see how there's 4 legs in total. There's these two. These are like the main legs. And then you got these 2 things sticking out. You want to clip these 2 ones that are sticking out. And I just use a wire cutter. Clip that one. And clip that one. Okay, so here's what it should look like. But you see there's some remaining stuff, and on there it's not completely flat. So what I like to do is take an X-Acto knife and I just trim that part away. Okay, great. So now you can see it is completely flat, and that's what you want. And next, you want to clip these 2, but not the whole thing. If you clip the whole thing, then it'll just pull out of the housing. You just want to do it just a little bit. And the reason why I'm clipping it is because these 2 legs rub against the housing, the stab housing, and that's what causes the scratch in cherry stabs. If you like the scratch, just leave these be. If you don't, then I would clip it. So not too much. And if you do it correctly, it shouldn't pull out of the housing. Yeah, see? The reason why I would choose cherry stabs over something like TX, AP, or stabies is because stabies, they don't top out. Their tolerances are really, really tight. And for TX AP, this is why I do not like TX AP. On the left is a cherry, and then on the right is a TX AP. And you see how the TX is significantly taller, or just a small bit taller than the cherry. And this increased height is just enough that the TX stab will literally bottom out instead of your switch. And to demonstrate, I have this GMK spacebar, 7U, perfectly flat. And I will put these 2 TX AP stems in like this. And then I have this switch, and it's perfectly flush. It's been soldered on. When I press down on the keycap, you can see that these stems, the TX AP stems, hit the PCB first. So the result is a very mushy stabilizer. What you have to do, you actually have to sand the bottom of these TX stabs. I had to sand the bottom so that it doesn't hit the PCB. So that's just not worth it in my opinion. I just go with cherries. Alright, so now I have clipped both of these cherry stems. I'm going to show you how to lube them. With the housing, lubing is quite simple. you take some 205 grade 0 and you just want nice medium thickness layer, and just like, I just lube the entire thing. I don't care about the contact points and where exactly you should lube. I just lube the whole thing. Here's what it should look like. And then here is the part where you do want to just like put as much lube as possible. This area, and then this whole section where the wire connects. All right, so that's got a lot of lube. Do the same for the other side. And then for the stem, all you gotta do is just lube all 4 sides of the stem. Not too heavy, not too light. Doesn't really matter. But what does matter is that you want a good thick amount of lube in this hole, and specifically the hole where the wire goes. See, there's 2 holes. This one you don't touch, nothing goes in here, but the wire goes through this one. So you just want to stick your brush in, swirl it, and get every single surface in this hole coated with some lube. And here's what it should look like. So the way you want to insert it into the housing is that you want this to line up. The side with 2 holes should be facing the side where the wire sticks in. Okay, so now I have completed these 2 stabs. Now you just got to balance the wire. So you could use the stock cherry wire, which is what I'm gonna do, or you can get replacements. A lot of people like to replace the stock cherry wire because the stock one is very malleable. It's even like the slightest touch will unbalance them. All right, so here's the stock wire. So I put it on a flat surface, like my phone, and you just tap each side with some tweezers. I got some tweezers here. Now that's what you want to hear. That's a pretty solid tap, no ticking. This side has a little bit of ticking. So the ticking side, you want to you want to twist away from you. So what I like to do is put it in between 2 tweezers, and I twist just a little. So now that side sounds pretty good. And then the other one, just a little bit of ticking. Go very gentle with these stock wires. They're really, really easy to bend. Okay, so I'm satisfied with this. And what I'm gonna do is, you gotta remember the orientation that you used when tuning them. And then you just take some 205 grade 0 and you brush on a medium to thick layer of lube. Same for the other side. So where you want to lube is this whole length, and then just a little bit around the corner. All right, so here's where people mess up a lot. So when inserting your switch, when inserting the wire, you got to brace it as close to the clip as you can. Otherwise, you might bend the wire. Do it as close to the part where it clips as you can. All right, so flip it over, make sure that it looks something like this. And if it's got lube, you can clean it. All right, so this is an MX Black. It's been filmed, it's been lubed, and the top out area has been cleaned, so no lube in the top out area. And this is a GMK keycap. And for the record, it's actually a little bit warped, but we'll see if it causes any issues. A little bit of ticking. So the best way to get rid of the ticking is you take a syringe that's full of 205 grade 0, and then make sure you insert it here. And then once you've filled the stem, let's try it out again. Okay, so I found out the reason why it was ticking. It was because I didn't seat the keycap properly. Here's what it sounds like. And so what happens was that there was a gap here. It wasn't seated properly on both sides. And what you do to get rid of that gap, and I'll make one right now. If you can see, there is a tiny little gap right about here and here. So you could like just push it in side by side, but that might not always work. So what I do, I take some tweezers, I stick it in here, and then I push it down. Same for the other side, stick in here, push it down. And then now you can see it is completely flush. So that is a properly seated keycap, even on both sides. Now here is, here's the 7U stab that I tuned the exact same way. And here's what it sounds like. Perfect. And one note is that for long pole switches, there will be a gap, sort of a gap here and here. So what to do with those long pole switches is that you need something called, you need some Geon stem spacers. I think that's what they're called. These things just sort of like bridge the gap, because long pole switches, they usually have reduced travel. So what you do is that you stick it on the stem like this. And you just put the keycap on like normal. If you do it with normal switches, it will feel mushy, because then the stabilizer stem is bottoming out on the PCB. Yeah, so that's how you perfectly tune your cherry stabs.